Now, I can't believe how bad it's gotten. I mean, it's here. We all know we're screwed. The question is, if it's going to get worse, what do we do? The good news is this: if it gets worse, you still have time to prepare. That is money supply. It's M2. Just too much money in the system. But the question is, so what's going to happen? Let's say they raise interest rates, they push us into a recession. That's going to crush a lot of small businesses, and if prices go up, I think the problem is in the bond market. That's my concern. Then the repo market, which is short term, as short as it gets. So I'm watching all this stuff. I want to know what a person can do.
In 1913, the Fed is the third central bank America has had, because every president has warned against central banks, like the Bank of England. And the Fed is not federal, it has no reserves, and it's not a bank. It's a cartel of banks. And in 1913, the Fed, the third one, was created, starting with President Washington, said, do not have a central bank. Since, 1776. Not only was the Fed created in 1913, so was the taxman. The Beatles always saying about the taxman. Well, in 1913, the 16th Amendment was passed, which caused America to be taxed. And almost up to that point, till 1913, America was a tax-free nation. So what does that tell you? For money to exist, taxes had to exist. Hear me out. For money to exist, the dollar or the pound, taxes had to exist. So it was one of the biggest scams going. And that's why 1913 is so important. And then in 1944, as World War II was winding down, the world agreed to make the US dollar the reserve currency of the world, which it is today, if America promised to keep it backed by gold. So in 1944, the United States says, we promise we'll back it by gold. And then in 1971, President Nixon says, oops, we broke our promise. And that allowed money printing to go out of control. So here we are today. I just got this. It just came in. It's The Economist from London. And it says here, governments have spent $17 trillion on the pandemic, including loans and guarantees, for a combined total of 16% of the global GDP. That's how much money was printed last year. 16% of the global GDP. Now, if that doesn't cause you to run out and buy gold and silver, I don't know what will. They now have to keep printing or we crash. That's why I've been bullish on gold for all these years. You watch who's spending the money. It's the government. I don't trust them. I never have. So, they're so incompetent. I just can't believe it. They're incompetent people. They're like Marx, highly educated people who don't know how to make money. They're not capitalists. They're socialists. If you understand that, in a few years, you're going to find out these banks are in serious trouble because of debt, because all the Fed and the Bank of England has to do is print more money. And as long as people will accept this toilet paper like this, people are happy. But the moment one day somebody says, oh my God, $10 billion, but it's not worth it. I was in Zimbabwe. This wouldn't buy me an egg. What's screwing us all up are academics. The academic elite, the liberal left and all this, I don't know where their heads are at, but they're not up in the air. And so the Fed fits into that category, the Bank of England fits into that category. They're doing all these projections and all this, but they're not attached to reality.